If you watched last week's 3-hour special edition of Star Citizen Live, you heard a lot about the evolution of this year's patches, how often they're going to come out, and how our shows are changing to reflect that. And if you didn't, well, I'm not really going to recap all that here. But this week, we sat down with some of the non-feature folk to talk about the content-driven side of this new initiative. Where did this idea of a content-driven push come from?
Well, as we sort of alluded to in the 1.0 presentation at CitizenCon, there's been a desire to get more emphasis on starting to build the storylines and the characters of Star Citizen Universe and getting them actually in game.
The way the content patches are going to break down are we're ultimately trying to provide new content to you each month. Alongside all of this, we're going to be essentially providing new missions, new events, kind of a lot of what we've done before, but taking it up to the next level.
Target destroyed.
This was an opportunity to start figuring out ways to engage the players in a growing and expanding storyline.
We're going to be sending you all the way around the verse, doing lots of different varied types of gameplay. You'll still be doing events that are prevalent to a story that we're going to be working on as well.
I got you covered!
As well as new missions that build up the existing roster that we actually have in game already. There will be some content that is only there for a limited amount of time, but ultimately a lot of this content is still going to persist when we hit to Star Citizen 1.0. So we're actually building out the larger content map that exists in the game. On top of that, there's going to be a huge focus now on stability and quality of life too, because we want a stable environment for our developers to work in, but we also want a stable game that's less buggy, less crashes, and much more pleasant for you guys to play day to day.
What's the word? Today's been rough.
As far as the structure for how we're going to tell the story, one of the things that we were kind of excited to try for it was actually utilizing a storytelling structure that's usually used in TV shows. Basically, there's usually an A story and a B story that happen within a single episode. If you're Seinfeld, you have a C story as well, because they're just that good. But there's the A story is sort of your primary story, your B story is sort of a supplemental ancillary story that sometimes can feed into it, but sometimes can be standalone. And it's just a way to kind of keep the scenes dynamic and kind of make them feel alive. So what we're trying to do is actually utilize kind of a similar thing, but stretched out over a longer period of time. And the idea being that A, it makes the universe feel bigger. So there's not just one thing happening that's consuming the entire universe. But also, if you're not interested in the A story, if for whatever reason it's not engaging you, you have something else that you can kind of do. So the idea is that hopefully that one of the two stories, hopefully both, but if not, one of the two stories will be fun and exciting and kind of offer a new insight to the Star Citizen universe. Currently, the plan is actually that the A story, we've already started it, and is actually going to be going through September. And then the B story is a little bit smaller, but it starts basically in April and goes on. So it's a multi-month thing. So it goes on until about October. Once this A story and B story kind of resolve themselves, we have a new A story that starts up and a new B story. So we sort of bounce back and forth. So some months we'll have more B story than A story. Some other months we'll have more A story than B story. But it gives us a way to kind of, again, pull in a lot of different facets of the universe, and whether it's gameplay, mission types, ships, and not have to figure out one overarching narrative that somehow encapsulates everything.
This doesn't replace that big storyline that we talked about at CitizenCon.
No, this doesn't replace that, the 1.0 story, but it is actually kind of offering an exciting opportunity to kind of lay the groundwork for that type of storytelling in the game.
Save Stanton is an event that spans over a few months, and it is all about a gang that has invaded Stanton. And it's not one of the usual ones either, it's not one of the usual suspects.
So this started in 324, where we made this narrative journey that players will go on.
The big story beat was that there was a new outlaw pack sort of showed up in Stanton system and was wreaking havoc. They were known as the Slicers, and were launching basically devastating attacks against the local population.
targeting cargo ships, stealing cargo, targeting different locations around Stanton, such as UGFs and outposts, inhabiting them, and also going around stealing sensitive data that the CDF do not want them to have.
The CDF had got all of the players to come and help. After the players sort of stopped them from doing that, the Slicers had showed their power and showed what they was really about and brought in an Idris that players had to try and reclaim off of them.
The viciousness of the attacks and the sort of unprovoked aspect of it is just sort of highlighting effectively what the problem is with Pyro, is that you have this sort of lawless haven for outlaws right next door to Stanton, and basically they have the freedom to kind of come and attack when they want to.
So these people just lived in a hole and decided to come to another place and make it a hole?
Some people just love chaos.
With 401, the player will find themselves in Pyro, ready to defend it or attack it. Depending on which one you have chosen, you'll be locked into that faction. So you can choose the Citizens for Prosperity, the Headhunters, or the Frontier Fighters. If you're working for the Citizens of Prosperity, you're doing more aid work. You're there to help people. You're not really doing much combat work. They're trying to make sure everyone survives this by passing out food, water, medical supplies.
They're basically like, we believe that there's good in this system, there are certainly bad elements, but you're just going to exacerbate the problem by trying to solve it with violence.
And the Headhunters are an old-time gang who've lived there for a long time. They know the land, they know the rules, and they're unhappy that these rules are being crossed.
Headhunters would want you in their group because they kick ass and they're fun to hang out with.
So they're on the offensive. They're here and they're going, you're not attacking our home. They're basically going to be just trying to kill the Frontier Fighters. And the Frontier Fighters want everybody dead. They're going nuclear Earth. You will be killing civilians. You will be killing Headhunters. You'll be killing Xenothreat. They don't care who. If you are in Pyro and you're not them, you're dead.
What's up the Frontier Fighters' ass?
A lot of explosives.
They're perfect for someone like the Darklaw. I don't know what that says about him.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Frontier Fighters is basically justice for Stanton.
They just want to live life in Stanton without being interrupted every 5 seconds. They want to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Are you being honest about the Frontier Fighters right now?
No. The Citizens for Prosperity have seemingly found something out, but they're not telling you as an operative exactly what. They are sending you to defend their data runners, and they're trying to get them out of Pyro, and they're asking you to go on the offensive now and attack the Frontier Fighters. Which isn't usual for the CFP. They're trying to be more of a peaceful group in this operation, but now they're not. And the Frontier Fighters are aware of this data that the CFP have. They have reported that they think it's to do with their attack plan on Pyro. So they're asking their operatives to take out the data runners that the CFP are trying to get out.
I'll cover you.
And also destroy any CFP-controlled servers to make sure that the data is gone and lost for good.
And the Headhunters?
Headhunters, again, carrying on their violent approach of sustaining their locations, reclaiming their locations. Where Frontier Fighters might have set up, they will go back in and explode every material that they had so they can get their outpost back. At the end of all this, you'll learn things.
You might learn a few things about the intentions of each of those factions. You might learn something more about yourself and what moral choices you decided to make and ways that us as designers got to fuck with you. At the end of this chapter, this leaves us with the truth of what was really happening and sets the stage for something more to come. The story doesn't end here.
I'll keep him occupied.
The way that this story ultimately is intending to play out, there are actually going to be real ramifications based on the group community choices that are made. So that will actually change the direction of the universe. Or it can either go one way or it can go the other way. So we're actually going to be playing around a lot with ways that players can decide how they want the universe to change. So moving forward, there's going to be a bit of a twist that comes down the road, which is going to escalate basically the situation into one of our first big events. With this, it basically allows us to plan out a bit more and actually, again, start to build a growing narrative.
Giving players more of a reason to engage and be able to talk to each other and like, hey, where did you get that item from? Oh, well, I was here when this happened, and I was here when this happened. Definable points in our universe's history. It adds to the universe, it adds to the story of it all, and it means that you as a player help build this world out.
So I'm really excited about the changes coming in. It's going to allow us to get more fun content in your hands more often, and it's going to provide a much more stable environment for us to work in, but also for you to play in as well.
Up until this point, we've actually been honing in on gameplay mechanics and more kind of under the hood stuff. We have a lot of data pads in the game to kind of do the heavy lifting for storytelling now. This is allowing us to kind of push on those other facets as a way to kind of be higher impact storytelling techniques.
So with a patch almost every month this year, building the narratives of the Stanton and Pyro systems with new content less reliant on big feature work, and packed between as many bug fixes and refinements as we can manage, we aim to deliver a progressive series of improvements in storytelling that will change life in the verse for the better throughout 2025. Oh, and last month, we launched a new bi-monthly Squadron 42 newsletter with exclusive video content, ringtones, wallpapers, and even merch. If you missed it, you can go to the Squadron 42 or account settings sections of the RSI website to opt in and not miss out on the next exclusive offerings. Or don't. I don't get any commission or anything. I just thought the stickers were neat. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the people and process of game development with you, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a look at Alpha 402, Supply or Die.